Everybody, if you're looking for a gas-powered chainsaw that you can find at most of your general department stores, this one was found at Home Depot. This is an 18-inch chainsaw by Echo. It's a CS-590. Can you remove a 50-foot tree with a chainsaw this size? These run in around $500 to $600 depending on where you get them at. And yes, you can, and I'm going to demonstrate what to do. So we've just got our saw. I'm going to unbox it right now. Looks good so far. Comes with a chain protector. Now actually that looks like a 20-inch bar, so I might have misspoken. Looks like a 20. We got the Timberwolf. Yeah, I'm thinking it's a... Yeah, it's 20, so cool. That's a little bit bigger than I was thinking. We got to get it set up. So, here's your chain. This is actually a pretty decent chain, you can tell. It's an Oregon chain, pretty decent. All right, so we're going to, now remember, if you have any kind of chainsaws, Huskies and Echoes are like this. You might find it on Poland or a few other brands. But this port right here needs a special type of grease. So that grease keeps this moving freely and it will prolong the life of your bar. If you don't grease this, eventually this will overheat and it'll come apart and you'll lose your bar. So we're gonna face our chain out. And you can see that right here. I'm facing the chain out. I've got the top of the saw. It doesn't have to be either, it can be either way, but I'm gonna start with it upright and I'm gonna face my chain out. That's the first step. Now let's see here. Most of these come with a saw tool. Did I see that? Yes, sir. All right, so this is your saw tool, also known as a scrunch. So you're gonna use these. This will do most of the basic maintenance on your saw, but you're gonna need some other tools if you wanna go any further than that. But to change your chain and to do the basic stuff you're typically gonna run into, this is gonna be enough. All right, so. Now, if you throw a chain, this type of chainsaw will give you some trouble, but it's a lot cheaper than typical saws. And what we like about these ones is they work for a long time. So this one right here, if it throws a chain, it can drag against these metal components. This should be made of aluminum, or at least a aluminum magnesium mixture. And that is gonna make it to where it doesn't damage the chain as much. But we don't want to damage the inside of the chain because that'll make it difficult to deal with later. So I'm gonna stick this on here. The first thing to remember too is once we get this on, now I have a guide. This is your bar guide right here. It moves back and forth via this little screw, and that has to sit in this hole in order to be able to tighten your bar. Now, excuse me, it doesn't have to sit into that hole. It needs to sit into this larger hole. So for a second, I'll get it on there, set in place where the bolts are, and I'm going to loosen instead of, I swear that's tightened. Oh, that is tightened. So we're tightening it, and you can see that pin moving down, and it's just about ready to sit in that hole right now. Okay, so it's set in place. Now my chain's on the bar, over the sprocket, and it's loose. So I'm gonna need to tighten it now. Excuse me, I forget which way is right. Now, that's annoying about that type of scrunch, because it's very long handled. It doesn't need to be that long. So I do prefer one of these short handled ones. So I'm gonna use this instead. Guide your chain in, keep tightening. All right, so this is a brand new chain. It's gonna loosen after the first 10 minutes of use. And so we're going to put it on a little tighter than we would normally because the chain will stretch. So it's going to be a little bit tighter. Normally you want one guide to come out and it to rest back in place, but you never want it too tight because that will cause a lot of friction on your bar, heating it up and warping it over time. So we don't want that. So I start with the back one first to make sure everything's in place. If your chain brake is off, you can move it. It's pretty stiff and it isn't super tight, but it is pretty tight. But like I said, it's going to loosen once we start using it, but we want these to be on here pretty tight. Okay, so per the manufacturer's recommendations, and this just coming from somebody, I've been an arborist, this is my 28th year in service, so this is something that comes around a lot. If you can't open this is your gas tank, if you can't open it, grab your scrunch and use it to kind of pry at it and you can get it open. Now, doesn't look like there's any debris in there. Actually, I do see something. My finger's clean. I don't think I got it, but that's not going to hurt nothing real. All right, here's the prices. We just paid $4.49 for the saw, and there was quite a bit of tax at the end. So 450 bucks. Is it worth it? Can you do some good work with it? We're gonna find out. All right, so per their manufacturers, always use ethanol-free fuel in your mix. Whether you're mixing it yourself or you're purchasing pre-mixed fuel, make sure it's ethanol-free. Ethanol will damage the different parts of your saw, especially the membranes that control the flow of fuel. You don't want to damage those. If they warp and you start having problems, it can get real serious real fast. What I don't like about these is they don't come with a pour spout, so you have to be pretty adept at not spilling. And I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's pretty tricky. And I shook up this tank. Oh, there we go. I shook up this tank before I did this. All right, you don't want to fill it all the way, but close. You want enough room that you can set your cap in there without any trouble. I would say this is not a professional grade saw. They've cut a lot of corners and made a lot of things out of plastic that you would typically want to be made out of a different product. But what can you do? What I do like is these dogs on front are pretty aggressive, and I really like that. When you're digging in, it can help a lot. And the CCs on this one, what was it? This one is 59.8 cc's. So you've got 59.8 cc's of displacement. That's perfect. That's gonna be able to do a lot of work. On one of our bigger professional saws, you're gonna see stuff like, here's one. This is a 572 Husqvarna. That's 72 cc's, but it's overpowered really. It doesn't need that much power because this has got a 36 or 42 inch bar on it. All right, so we're gonna fill her up with some oil. So if you were to run it without oil, it wouldn't ruin it right away. So don't worry if that's something that happens. It's not like a car. The 2-cycle is a special formulated oil inside of the gas mixture that is taking care of your motor. This oil is just for your bar and chain, and it keeps it cool, keeps it lubricated, keeps it moving right. And that's really all it's for. So if you ran it a little while without oil in here, you would be okay, but try not to do that because that is going to significantly increase the wear on your bar, and it will break down on you pretty quick. So you're also going to need a greasing tool. This is one that you can find at most of your different department stores. Pretty cheap, they don't last super long, but for your typical homeowner, it's gonna be enough. Okay, we've got some grease in there. Got it going. Now give me a second, I'm gonna throw on some PPE. I don't wanna demonstrate something without giving you a good example. So anytime you're operating a saw, make sure you're wearing the proper protective gear. So I'm not running it right now, I'm not going to be wearing chaps. You have special tear resistant pants, but if you don't have those, you're not a professional arborist, then you need to have some sort of chaps. And that's just something that we require for everybody. A helmet, if you're going to be underneath any trees that are being worked on. Ear protection, if you're going to be running any gas-powered saws. Eye protection, and I'll be wearing some safety glasses. Let me grab those. Now, if you're going for safety glasses, don't go with the cheapest ones you find. Go with some that have some sort of a nose, like something, an anti-nose rub type of deal. What it does that's good about it is it holds it off your face just enough that it's less likely to fog up. So that's what makes these a little bit better. All right, let's fire her up. We've got your choke over here. We're gonna pull it out. We're gonna make sure it's turned on. I'm pretty sure on is up on this model. It just has a stop sticker, so you can't really tell exactly which way it is, but I'm assuming down is off. That first fire kind of turnover is enough on the choke. Keep this on. Okay, so I let it run just a little bit to burn off that choke, and then you could hear it sped up a little bit and slowed down, and that's enough. Now, every time I go to start, before I start it, I'm gonna turn it on, and it should kick over really nicely. All right, it's working. We're gonna get over by the tree. We've got some beetles that are attacking laurel trees here, and they're killing them everywhere. The beetle isn't actually killing it by tunneling, its grubs tunneling underneath the bark and the phloem. That's not what's killing it. They're bringing a fungal element with them. So these fungal spores they bring with them, once they get into the tree, wipe it out so fast. So that's what we're gonna be dealing with. And so when we get over to the tree, I'll get you guys set up. Can this remove a tree, a 50-foot tree? That's the idea. So your basic homeowner can get a chance to use a saw like this, and we'll check in here in just a second. All right, so we've got a tree. This is a 50-foot tree. I've already taken out a lot of the top because we're working over a pool today, so there's not much left of it. But this is just to give you an example of this bar size's ability to cut a piece of wood. This tree is bigger in diameter than this bar, but that's not a problem. It's how you cut it, and that's why I'm going to show you guys how to do it. So we'll get this fired up. All right, this guy is completely hollow. And you can see when you look down into the tree itself, but there was enough of a face that we could get it done. But this bar actually is long enough to get through the edge of the other side. But what I showed you is a way to cut without doing it. So I started here, and then I worked my way around, and that's how you would finish your cut. So anyway, will it do the job? Yes, no problem. And so real quick, I'm just gonna cut this up a little bit more. When you're cutting up a log, cut it in sizes big enough for firewood, because that's probably what it's gonna end up being, unless you're gonna make a log out of a hollow, or make a board out of something hollow, which you're not going to do. We're gonna cut this up into firewood sizes. I'm not gonna cut all the way through. I'm gonna cut most of the way through, and then I'm gonna turn this log over and finish the cut so I don't dull the blade. We never want to touch any part of this blade to the ground at any time. If there's grass, it wouldn't be as big a deal. If I have a stick in the way, that's going to protect it from touching. That's good too, because if sand gets on this at all, once you go into your cut, it'll dull your chain so fast. So always keep all portions of your blade out of the dirt. And this is your chain brake, stops the chain. So if you need to, use that when you can. And I'm going to cut it up a little bit more, so watch along if you like. All right, so a pro tip for you guys will be this. Cut your firewood pieces a little bit shorter. It makes them much easier to split. This is a really dense wood, so it's very difficult to split this when the person's trying to cut it with an axe. You want it to be as narrow as possible, easier to split. Now, something we probably should have talked about was chainsaw safety. So obviously this is our chainsaw, and now you can see, since we've been working, that this is a lot more loose than when we first started. Now, as you're using a chain, it's going to loosen a little bit right at first when they first use the chain, but it shouldn't loosen much after that initial use. So if you didn't put it on tight enough, it could become too loose and pop off. That makes it a bad idea to have that happen. But anyway, let's talk about chainsaw safety. This is the kickback quadrant right here. So when we're working with a chainsaw, this one has enough power to kick this blade back at me. It's spinning this way really fast, and if I were to catch the tip of that, it would gain, and because of the round nature of the end of it, it would throw it back at me. And I've had it happen many times. It's super dangerous, but if you're thinking about it and you're being careful, it's not likely to happen. So try to cut just back a little bit further. So when people are doing that finish cut that I was talking about, this is one of those times when it can happen. So just if you saw, I plunged in a little bit deeper before I brought it back toward me, and that's all you have to do. But 2 hands on the chainsaw at all times. Now you saw me start it like this. The blade's plenty far enough away from me, and I start these all day long every day. But if you aren't as confident as I am, you can see how this has a bigger side than the other. Turn the saw this way, so that way you can step into the bigger side and you can pin this to the ground. Now look at how much clearance this has from the rest of the ground here. If I've pinned the machine, the power head down to the ground, this has plenty of clearance, and I have lots of room to start. And so I can get nice and comfortable and start the chainsaw. Make sure it's turned on first. Two hands on the chainsaw at all times, and always consider your blood circle. What's your blood circle? Anywhere this saw could be around me is my blood circle. If anybody's standing in that area there, or anywhere that saw could be on my body, they're too close, and they need to be told what to do, in the sense that they need to stay away from my blood circle to keep themselves safe. And I'm always looking out for people in my blood circle. Pets too. A dog can walk right up to you, even with a loud noise sometimes. I've seen dogs do it before, and you want to make sure everybody's safe. So make sure your area is clear. Everybody understands what you're going to be doing. That's common sense, but sometimes that's not common. So first things first, get your area clear, and then make sure you're using your chainsaw properly, and you're going to be safe, hopefully, and you'll be doing a good job, and you'll be able to do it for a long time, and that's the most important part. But that's the Echo Timber Wolf. This is a decent size saw. This is the CS-590. I would recommend this size for any homeowner. It's got a 20-inch bar, and it does a pretty good job. Not super expensive. You're going to spend $5 or $6 or $7 or $800 on a chainsaw if you're buying one for your house. But this, what I like about it is really easy to work on, really easy to fix. Most of the stuff you can do yourself. It's not super durable, but it is going to be plenty for your typical homeowner. So check out Echo and give it a chance. I've used Echo machines. For example, I have one Echo weed eater power head that has multiple attachments. I've had it for 20-something years. Haven't done anything to it. It still runs today. So Echo is a dependable brand, and you can trust them with the tools that you need to use. But anyway, check us out next time. Hope that helps you.